watch in effect from Tuesday morning through late Tuesday night. The National Weather Service in New York has issued a flood watch for portions of southern Connecticut, northeast New Jersey, and southeast New York, including the following areas: in southern Connecticut, northern Fairfield, northern Middlesex, northern New Haven, northern New London, southern Fairfield, southern Middlesex, southern New Haven, and southern New London, and northeast New Jersey, eastern Bergen, eastern Essex, eastern Passaic, eastern Union, Hudson, western Bergen, western Essex, western Passaic, and western Union. In southeast New York, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, northeastern Suffolk, northern Nassau, northern Queens, northern Westchester, northwestern Suffolk, Orange, Putnam, Staten Island, Rockland, southeastern Suffolk, southern Nassau, southern Queens, southern Westchester, and southwestern Suffolk. From Tuesday morning through late Tuesday night, a slow-moving coastal low will parallel the eastern seaboard on Tuesday, passing across eastern Long Island in the evening. Heavy rainfall will spread into the region Tuesday morning and persist through most of the day. Rain will be heavy at times with 2 to 3 inches possible by the time the event ends Tuesday night, with localized higher amounts. The main impact will be urban and poor drainage flooding, but some small rivers and stream across northeast New Jersey and the lower Hudson Valley Maricho exceed bank full. This same region received 1 to 2 inches of rainfall just a couple of days ago. A flood watch means there is a potential for flooding, based on current forecasts. You should monitor later forecasts and be alert for possible flood warnings. Those living in areas prone to flooding should be prepared to take action should flooding develop. For the following areas: in Connecticut, southern Fairfield, southern New Haven, southern Middlesex, and southern New London, and the following areas: in New York, southern Westchester, Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, northwest Suffolk, southwest Suffolk, northern Queens, northern Nassau, southern Queens, southern Nassau, northeast Suffolk, and southeast Suffolk. High wind watch in effect from Tuesday morning through Tuesday afternoon. The National Weather Service in New York has issued a high wind watch, which is in effect from Tuesday morning through Tuesday afternoon. Locations: New York City, coastal Connecticut, southern Westchester, and Long Island. Hazards: high winds. Winds northeast 25 to 35 miles per hour with gusts 55 to 60 miles per hour. Timing: strongest winds will be from late morning into mid-afternoon. Impacts: downed tree limbs, scattered power outages, and minor property damage. A high wind watch means there is the potential for a hazardous high wind event. Sustained winds of at least 40 miles per hour, or gusts of 58 miles per hour or stronger may occur. Continue to monitor the latest forecasts. For the following area: in New York, orange, winter weather advisory in effect from 6 p.m. this evening to 9 a.m. Tuesday. The National Weather Service in New York has issued a winter weather advisory for freezing rain and snow, which is in effect from 6 p.m. this evening to 9 a.m. Tuesday. Locations: Orange County, New York. Hazard types: primarily freezing rain or drizzle, possibly mixing with snow. Accumulations: snow less than an inch, along with around 1/10 of an inch of ice. Timing: this evening into the overnight. Impacts: any amount of freezing rain can make walking and traveling hazardous. A winter weather advisory means that periods of snow, sleet, or freezing rain will cause travel difficulties. Be prepared for slippery roads and limited visibilities, and use caution while driving. For the following areas: in New York, Brooklyn, southwest Suffolk, southern Queens, and southern Nassau. Coastal flood advisory in effect from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday. The National Weather Service in New York has issued a coastal flood advisory, which is in effect from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday. Locations: locations bordering the South Shore base from Brooklyn through western Suffolk County. Tidal departures: 1 to 2 feet. Timing: around the time of high tide Monday morning. Impacts: minor flooding of the most vulnerable shore roads and/or basements due to height of storm tide or wave splash over. Majority of roads remain passable with only isolated closures. There is no significant threat to life, and heavy impact on property is minimal. A coastal flood advisory indicates that onshore winds and tides will combine to generate flooding of low areas along the shore. The offshore waters forecast for south of Long Island between Montauk Point and Sandy Hook, up to 1,000 fathoms. Gale warning. To Today, northeast winds 25 to 35 knots, becoming east 25 to 30 knots late. Seas 13 to 19 feet, subsiding to 10 to 15 feet this afternoon. Chance of rain. Tonight, east winds 20 to 30 knots, increasing to 25 to 35 knots late. Seas 10 to 15 feet. Tuesday, east to southeast winds 35 to 45 knots. Seas building to 12 to 18 feet. Rain. Tuesday night, west to northwest winds 20 to 30 knots, becoming southwest 15 to 25 knots late. Seas becoming 9 to 14 feet. Wednesday, west to northwest winds 20 to 30 knots. Seas 7 to 13 feet. Wednesday night, northwest winds 25 to 35 knots, becoming west to southwest 20 to 30 knots late. Seas 8 to 14 feet. Thursday, west winds 15 to 25 knots. Seas subsiding to 7 to 11 feet. Thursday night, west to southwest winds 15 to 20 knots, diminishing to 10 to 15 knots late. Seas subsiding to 4 to 8 feet. Friday, west to southwest winds 5 to 10 knots, becoming northwest 5 to 15 knots late. Seas 4 to 8 feet. Friday night, northwest winds 5 to 15 knots, becoming west late. Seas 4 to 7 feet. The offshore waters forecast for south of New England between the Great South Channel and Montauk Point, up to 1,000 fathoms. Gale warning. Today, northeast winds 30 to 35 knots, becoming east 25 to 30 knots late. Seas 14 to 19 feet, subsiding to 11 to 15 feet this afternoon. Tonight, east winds 20 to 30 knots, increasing to 25 to 35 knots late. Seas 10 to 15 feet. Tuesday, east to southeast winds 35 to 45 knots. Seas building to 14 to 18 feet. Rain. Tuesday night, west to southwest winds 15 to 25 knots, becoming south to southwest late. Seas subsiding to 11 to 14 feet. Wednesday, west winds 15 to 25 knots. Seas becoming 10 to 12 feet. Wednesday night, west winds 20 to 30 knots, becoming southwest 15 to 25 knots late. Seas 9 to 13 feet, highest southeast. Thursday, west to southwest winds 15 to 25 knots. Seas 9 to 14 feet, highest southeast. Thursday night, southwest winds 15 to 20 knots, becoming west 5 to 15 knots late. Seas subsiding to 7 to 9 feet. Friday, east to northeast winds less than 10 knots, increasing to 5 to 15 knots late. Seas subsiding to 5 to 7 feet. Friday night, west to northwest winds 10 to 20 knots, becoming west 5 to 15 knots late. Seas 4 to 7 feet. The offshore waters forecast for Hudson Canyon to Baltimore Canyon, up to 1,000 fathoms. Gale warning. Today, northeast winds 25 to 35 knots, becoming east 25 to 30 knots late. Seas 12 to 19 feet, subsiding to 11 to 15 feet this afternoon. Chance of rain. Tonight, east winds 20 to 30 knots, increasing to 25 to 35 knots late. Seas becoming 12 to 16 feet, highest east. Tuesday, east to northeast winds 30 to 40 knots, becoming north late. Seas 12 to 18 feet, highest east. Chance of rain. Scattered thunderstorms late. Tuesday night, northwest winds 20 to 30 knots, becoming west 15 to 25 knots late. Seas subsiding to 9 to 14 feet. Chance of rain. Wednesday, west winds 20 to 30 knots, becoming west to northwest at 25 to 35 knots late. Seas 8 to 13 feet, highest east. Wednesday night, northwest winds 30 to 35 knots, becoming west 20 to 30 knots late. Seas 8 to 14 feet, highest east. Thursday, west winds 15 to 25 knots. Seas subsiding to 6 to 9 feet. Thursday night, west winds 10 to 20 knots, diminishing to 5 to 15 knots late. Seas 5 to 9 feet. Friday, west to northwest winds 5 to 15 knots. Seas subsiding to 4 to 7 feet. Friday night, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas 3 to 6 feet.
You are listening to NOAA's Hazards Radio, station KWO35 in New York City. This broadcast originates from the National Weather Service Forecast Office located on the grounds of Brookhaven National Laboratory in Upton, New York. Station KWO35 broadcasts on a frequency of 162.55 MHz.
for the following areas in Connecticut, southern Fairfield and southern New Haven, and the following areas in New York, southern Westchester, Bronx, northwest Suffolk, northern Queens and northern Nassau. Coastal flood advisory in effect from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday. The National Weather Service in New York has issued a coastal flood advisory, which is in effect from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday. Locations bordering western Long Island Sound from northwest Suffolk County through Queens and the Bronx, and out through New Haven County. Tidal departures, 1½ to 2½ feet. Timing, around the time of high tide Monday afternoon. Impacts, minor flooding of the most vulnerable shore roads, and/or basements due to height of storm tidal wave splash over. Majority of roads remain passable with only isolated closures. There is no significant threat to life, and any impact on property is minimal. A coastal flood advisory indicates that onshore winds and tides will combine to generate flooding of low areas along the shore. Coastal flood advisory remains in effect from 7 a.m. this morning to noon today. Location, coastal Monmouth and Middlesex counties in New Jersey. Coastal flooding, minor flooding is anticipated around high tide this morning. There is a potential for moderate coastal flooding during the Tuesday morning high tide. At Sandy Hook, New Jersey, high tide this morning will occur at 8:36 a.m. with a forecast tide level near 7.0 feet above mean low water. The high tide Tuesday morning will occur at 9:19 a.m. with a forecast tide level of 7.5 to 8.0 feet above mean low water. At Seaside Heights, New Jersey, high tide this morning will occur at 8:06 a.m. with a forecast tide level near 6.5 feet above mean low water. The high tide Tuesday morning will occur at 8:49 a.m. with a forecast tide level near 7.0 feet above mean low water. Impacts, expect roadways prone to minor tidal flooding to flood this morning. Expect road closures during the times of high tide Tuesday morning. In addition, wind-driven heavy rains and wave action will exacerbate the potential for beach erosion Tuesday. For the following area, in New York, Staten Island, localized minor coastal flooding possible. Locations bordering New York Harbor on Staten Island. Tidal departures, 1½ to 2 feet. Timing, around the time of high tide Monday morning. Impacts, localized minor flooding of the most vulnerable shore roads, and adjacent to properties due to height of storm tidal wave splash over. There is no significant threat to life, and any impact on property is minimal. Here is the latest weather map discussion. Very strong